Cimoooooooo! What's going on, guys? It's Cimoooooooo, coming back at you guys with yet another live duel commentary. So on the left we have Salamangreat, one of the tier 1 decks of this current format, and on the right we have a deck that's like teetering on tier 1, but it's probably a tier 2 for the moment, pure Cyber Dragon. Now if you include the Orcust engine in Cyber Dragon, I actually think that's a tier 1 contender at this point, because we've seen with some of the past tournament results, this is definitely a deck to fear, but pure Cyber Dragon still pretty good for several reasons, pretty decent matchups across the board. So Salamangreat Foxy being the initial normal summon from the Salamangreat player, hitting all 3 valid targets, Spinny, Roar, as well as Gazelle here. Depending on the composition of your hand, I would say you most likely want to go for Gazelle. You could also go for the Spinny because you're kind of going to end in the same combo regardless. However, you did use that normal summon on the Foxy, so you can't resurrect it, so it makes doing the combo a little bit difficult. I think going for Gazelle is the call here, usually in most instances, but then again, it does depend on what else is in your hand. You kind of just want to get to the Gazelle and just make sure you have it in your hand so you don't have to burn it on summoning it off of something like Mirage Style. But he's actually going to go for the Roar here, so we'll have to see what the rest of his hand contains. Now we would see the Balinks come down. He's going to get the Sanctuary. This will also see if he would have gotten Gazelle here, he could have just easily summoned it out. But again, we'll see what he does. I do want to talk about Cyber Dragon for a bit though, just because Cyber Dragon has some incredible matchups right now, with Sky Striker being one of the best decks. You also have Orcust, which are all machines, so it's another way to just contact fuse. So it's, you know, just a really solid option, especially if you love Cyber Dragon. So we see Spinny come down using both of its effects to pump up the Balinks as well as resurrect itself, and that triggered the Sea Archiver in the Salamangreat player's hand. We are going to see an Effect Veiler though unfortunately meet this Mirage Stalio, and that just might end the turn. So not too bad. He did get the Roars, so I mean it does give him a little bit of protection for the Cyber Dragon player's turn, but it might not be enough just depending on how good the Cyber Dragon player opened. Not to mention it is Cyber Dragon. It's kind of meant to OTK and has a lot of tools to do so, and kicking things off with a Cyber Emergency usually isn't too bad. So we're going to start with Cyber Dragon, contact fuse away the Balinks for a Mega Fleet that will shut off the Roar, and now we're going to see a normal summon of Core, and this is looking pretty grim for the Salamangreat player already. Salamangreat, still a pretty decent deck, but obviously does have its choke points here, and we're seeing that, you know, that well-timed Veiler on the Mirage Stalio with no other follow-up play can sometimes be just enough to end the Salamangreat player's turn, but still a well-rounded deck. Obviously, it's made multiple top 4s at the last Premier Tournament, so it has a lot of backing, and there are a lot of people that do enjoy playing the deck, but we're going to see Cyber Dragon look like it's going to make pretty quick work of the Salamangreat player, at least for this game 1 at the moment. Do keep in mind though, the Salamangreat player could potentially have a myriad of different hand traps. They play anywhere in the neighborhood of like 12 to 15 in some instances, and it's just a really tough deck to play against because you don't know how many threats they have. They could have 3 hand traps in their hand for all you know, and you have to play around each and every one of them. So now we see that the Cyber Dragon player is using Repair Plant that he searched off of the core, and we're going to see what follow-up play he has here. Assembling 8,000 damage in Cyber Dragon shouldn't be too difficult, especially with an opening like this, but he is using a lot of his resources here, but it shouldn't be too bad. So we're going to go ahead and link off here. We might see a copy of, actually there's a few options he could go into here. So let's see, he's going to go for the Platinum Gadget as a matter of fact. Okay, so Platinum Gadget, something you don't see too often, but a pretty nice card at that. We are going to see it be met with a Phantasme though. So Phantasme, a very good hand trap. I would say pseudo hand trap, because it isn't exactly a hand trap. It just kind of helps dig you for more hand traps, but it does conflict with some cards in the deck. If you're playing Infinite Impermanence, you can't Impermanence if you draw it off Phantasme, but there's plenty of cards that make it a very viable option, like Ash Blossom, Ghost Ogre, Effect Veiler, and these are all commonly played in Salamangreat. So now we see Cyber Dragon Naxter come down, and we are going to see it resurrect a Cyber Dragon or a monster that happens to have 2100 attack or defense. Do keep in mind, if you're playing the Orcust variant of Cyber Dragon, you can actually resurrect a copy of Dingirsu if it wasn't already previously special summoned that turn. So that's a really neat interaction that some players don't know if you're playing that build, and just one of the other reasons why Cyber Dragon Orcust is such a strong deck. Such cool synergies. And now we're going to see a link summon of the Naxter and the Cyber Dragon for a copy of Seeger. So we're going to go to battle phase, so no OTK here, but we are going to see this board get cleaned up to an extent. Mirage Stalio will hit the graveyard, going through the Balinks, just having both monsters attack into it. He is going to have the Phantasme still on the board, but depending on what the rest of his hand looks like, if he kind of just set one card and pass, that's not really going to be too good here. But we are going to start with a Flame Buffalo, and this is nice because you can play around some hand traps pretty well. We're going to go ahead and see that Flame Buffalo go ahead and potentially search this copy of Sanctuary here, and that will also allow the Buffalo to discard a Cyberse card and draw a couple fresh cards for the Salamangreat player. So he's definitely still in it. Got the Jaguars too, so that means he has another resource to take advantage of. He has Spinny in the graveyard, Jaguar in the graveyard, as well as Sea Archiver, so he could very easily just make another Mirage Stalio here. If he happens to play two, we're going to see Spinny, and that's going to trigger Archiver's ability since a monster was special summoned to the zone that Balinks points to, and now we're going to go ahead and see the second Mirage Stalio. This is a reason that some players opt to play two for situations like this, but another Effect Veiler. Oh, and a Signet Backdoor, I believe that card is. So we're seeing that in response as Chainlink 3. So this is cool because Signet Backdoor will tribute off the Mirage Stalio here, special summon a Gazelle from the deck, and then it actually, I believe, makes it so that Veiler would be able to allow the Mirage Stalio to resolve fully, because now Mirage Stalio is no longer on the field, so Veiler doesn't target anything, so that will resolve summon the Falco, and Signet Backdoor actually adds it to the hand. So Falco hits the field, that is also going to allow Gazelle to come here, and wow, okay, so the Cyber Dragon player actually has seen enough, and we're gonna go straight to game number 2. So Salamangreat up 1-0, we saw that he had multiple copies of Cyber Dragon Core in his hand, so really not much follow-up there once his board of Seeger plus Platinum Gadget was broken. So very unfortunate for the Cyber Dragon player. He had a clean opening, and is Salamangreat gonna pass? Oh wow, that is not what you want to see. So there's a Cyber Emergency getting met with Ash Blossom, so that's a pretty okay start, but there's a lot of starters in these decks. So wow, we have a Naster with Machine Duplication. Now keep in mind, this does count as Cyber Dragon while it's on the field, so we are going to see the Cyber Dragon player summon out 2 copies of Cyber Dragon directly from the deck. He's already presenting a massive amount of damage, and he still has plenty of time and plenty of cards in his hand to work with here. Both these players playing at an incredible pace. We see the Salamangreat player clapping there for that machine dupe. You know, that's one of the things. Cyber Dragon has so many cards that you feel like you have to answer, and when you ask something as simple as like Cyber Emergency, which is debatable just depending on how they open, you might want to ask something like Core, but even if you ask something like Core, then if they have the machine dupe follow-up, you're not really going to have an answer to it since Ash is a once per turn, so it just feels bad. So here comes an Overload Fusion now, so he's going to banish the Naster as well as the Cyber Dragon, and he's going to go for Chimera Tech Rampage. Now, no need to use the effect to pop anything. We are going to see an Impermanence, though, come down to prevent this Rampage from sending Cyber Dragons to the graveyard and giving it additional attacks. So we're going to see him just go to the battle phase. He's going to swing for 21 from each of them, so I believe that's 4,200 total. Going to overlay here for a rank 5, so looks like a Nova most likely. Can go ahead and gonna go straight into Infinity. Okay, so he's not gonna detach. I think he might not have another monster engraved, so I don't think he can detach without another valid target. So just a straight up Infinity, 1 negation, possibly maybe hand traps in hand, but Infinity's still pretty difficult to deal with, especially with 3 materials. That means it is on 2,700 attack. Keep in mind the Salamangreat player sitting on 3,800 life points, which for Cyber Dragon is not that much. We're gonna see a Will of the Salamangreat start things here for the Salamangreat player. He's going to most likely special summon from the hand. He's going to activate it. Keep in mind that Will does special summon from the hand or graveyard for its first effect. So we are going to see a special summon of Spinny. Going to immediately link that off for a Balinks presumably here, just to go ahead and grab that Sanctuary. So it's going to go ahead and trigger. Do we have a response here? Cyber Dragon player looking at his hand. So might consider wanting to negate this potentially. Stop the Salamangreat player from getting into the Sanctuary. I don't think that's worth it in most instances because the Sanctuary is it's not that big of a deal if you allow them to have it. There's much greater threats to stop. But hand traps against Salamangreat are a little bit iffy because so many of them don't really destroy the monster. So that way it's difficult because you're taking -1s for most of these here. So now we're going to go ahead and resurrect the Spinny since we have a Salamangreat monster. And now the Salamangreat player is just going to go ahead and look through his extra deck. The fact that he passed on turn 1 is a bit surprising, and I'm curious what else he's got in his hand. We know he has the Sanctuary. So now we can go ahead and Reincarnation Link summon this Balinks for another copy. And now he could potentially make a Sunlight Wolf here. Oh, he's going to normal summon Ash. Okay, so that's how he's going to hard make Mirage Stalio. Do keep in mind Mirage Stalio just requires any 2 level 3s, so it's generic, which is crazy that you can use stuff like Ash as material. And now we're going to see Infinity negate that Mirage Stalio, and we're going to go ahead and just immediately go into Sunlight Wolf here. Keep in mind the Balinks did protect the Mirage Stallion from being destroyed, even though the effect was negated. So he made a copy of Sunlight Wolf, attacked for 18, putting him down, Cyber Dragon player down to 62. And Cyber Dragon player has a Pankratops now, which is really nice because he can go ahead and attack over this Sunlight Wolf, deal 800. That puts the Salamangreat player down to 3,000 life points. And Pankratops is a really big threat. If he attempts to activate Will, he can just pop it. He can even pop this Flame Buffalo here if he so wishes. But he's going to go ahead and allow him to link it off. So we're going to see a copy of Balinx. He's going to go ahead and draw a couple cards by discarding Falco. Nice that his last card happened to be a Cybers monster. Getting a quick refresh of the hand there. He does have a Spinny in the graveyard and now a Falco as well. So he's got some resources. Just has to play through a single Pankratops. That's not the end of the world here. And again, the Salamangreat player is up a game, so there is still the chance that the Cyber Dragon player, you know, he's fighting for his life at this point. Can't really afford to make too many mistakes, but the Salamangreat player I don't think opened too optimally, but that Buffalo could change things. He's definitely contemplating his moves. He's going to go ahead and activate Will. This could force an activation of Pankratops here, but we're going to allow him to special summon the Falco, and now we see that Cynet backdoor once again, so that will allow him to tribute off the Falco to add any of his Salamangreats to hand. We're going to go ahead and see if that resolves here, and it looks like it will, so it actually, it banishes the Falco. And I'm curious what he's going to add here. He could go for, oh, Sea Archiver. Okay, so that he can go ahead and use the Spinny, resurrect it, summon Archiver, and that would be a second Mirage Stallion, just like he did in the first game. Like that tech of Cynet backdoor. I don't know if it's exactly, I don't know, you'd have to do some extensive testing to see if that's really worth it, but the fact that it allows you to play around hand traps like Valor is actually pretty cool. But Sea Archiver, such a good addition in the Salamangreat deck, essentially give you more copies of Spinny that don't have that Salamangreat name, and every time they become Xyz materials, they go back to the graveyard. They don't actually get banished, so you can essentially make a free Mirage Stallion every single turn with these cards in the graveyard. And there's a Nibiru! Oh my god, Nibiru coming down. He's gonna go ahead and take everything out here. He's going to tribute the Pankratops in response to Nibiru to attempt to pop the Will, but the Salamangreat player will banish a copy of Balinx to protect the Will here, and wow, what a blowout. I don't think the Salamangreat player is going to have a lot of follow-up here. He does have a pretty sizable token, but it is in defense mode, so there's not even a whole lot he can really do with it here. And that is just so unfortunate. So play back to the Cyber Dragon player, and there's an Overload Fusion in his hand, the second copy. Now he can go ahead and banish these Cyber Dragon monsters. He can just go ahead and summon, I believe, if he's playing Cyber Twin, oh no, he's going to go for Rampage. Okay, so he's going to go ahead and do Rampage. Salamangreat player's seen enough. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to game number 3. This is a very quick match, surprisingly, and it's really a good one. So we're going to see. It looks like Salamangreat's going to take first, which makes sense. Usually that deck wants to go first, and it looks like he just has set to pass. Now, it's crazy because in the last game, he actually just passed the turn with a hand of multiple hand traps, and not really a lot going on here. Cyber Dragon player going to start with a Naster, going to discard Cyber Dragon, resurrect that Cyber Dragon, and a normal summon of Core. This is a very strong opening, so now he's able to add any of his Cyber Spell and traps to his hand. Could go for a Repair Plant. He could go for like Rev System if he wants to do like some sort of Almirage play. There's just so much he can do here. He's got a lot going on. Could actually go for Cyberload Fusion. Yeah, he is going to go for that. Okay. Cyberload Fusion, enabling him just to get extra damage, and this could be really good because then he can go into the Rampage Dragon, pop the back row because you can pop cards equal to the number of materials used, get those additional attacks, and maybe just go in for the quick OTK depending on what those back row are. You know, he doesn't have any Salamangreat Link monsters, so Rage could be back there. He could also have Impermanence. We saw that in game 2, so Impermanence could be a threat to that, but he still would be threatening a significant amount of damage even if he did go for that Cyberload Fusion play. We'll have to see what else he's got in his hand, but it looks like he's just going to attack with the Cyber Dragon and the Core. We're going to see the Cyberload Fusion still in battle phase here. So we're going to go ahead and fuse off the Cyber Dragon as well, or excuse me, we're going to shuffle back into the deck to fusion summon out this Rampage Dragon here, I'm presuming. Or, oh no, he's going to go for the Cyber Twin. He is going to just try and just win the game here. And that's it. The Cyber Dragon player takes it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching the video on the back of Cyber Twin Dragon. That is going to do it. Thank you again so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.